Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Innovators Radio. This is your host, Constant Taylor. Today we have a very special guest on our show, and they are going to share some very powerful information with us. So, if you're looking to increase your personal and professional effectiveness, then you've come to the right place. Our special guest today is Caroline Dowd Higgins. Caroline has been speaking professionally for over 10 years. The content that Caroline speaks on is thriving in your career, career development, and career reinvention. Caroline has spoken primarily nationally, but has also spoken internationally as well. She is based out of Bloomington, Indiana, and her latest book is This Is Not the Career I Ordered. She also has a new book coming out soon called Thrive Where You Are, 8 Action Steps to Finding Fulfillment in Your Workplace Now. Caroline, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. We're delighted to have you. We know that you're very busy, so we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. Let me jump right into the program by asking you to tell the listeners about your speaking business, what you do, and the types of services that you offer.
Absolutely. Well, I want to tell you a little story first to give you some background. I am an individual who went through a very dramatic career change, and that really precipitated a wonderful new opportunity for me in my professional life, which led to me becoming a professional speaker. I was trained many years ago to be a professional opera singer, and I sang throughout the U.S. and also internationally, and loved that career for a decade until the economy shifted, especially in the European countries where I was singing. And I was not able to sustain that career financially. So it was a difficult time for me, and I was trying to figure out what else I could do. And in all honesty, I had a bit of an emotional breakdown thinking, gosh, I'm very focused in my career. I know exactly what I want to do. And I couldn't put the pieces together to figure out what other options were out there. And through some wonderful mentors and teachers and influencers in my life, I realized I had a lot of other skills and a lot of other talents and experience beyond being a singer and being a professional musician. And because of that, I went through a career reinvention process myself. And I realized I've got something here. I know there are a lot of other women and men who have changed careers. And from that moment on, and this was 10 years ago, I devoted my career to helping other people figure out their career reinvention. And that led to career coaching and my public speaking practice, which focuses, as you said, on career development and career reinvention. So I created that career as the mother of necessity, having to deal with my own career reinvention.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful and inspiring story. It's interesting that we all have gifts that we come here with, and obviously your gift has been the use of your voice, and it started out in one fashion, and you're actually still doing it now because you're a tremendous speaker, and I'm sure you were a tremendous opera singer as well. So that's very fascinating.
Well, thank you for saying that, and I like to say, I even wrote this in my book, I'm singing a different tune now, and I'm using my voice in a different way.
I like
that. And it's really joyful to be able to continue to communicate, but truthfully singing a different song, if you will.
So when did you have the idea? What was the spark of inspiration that took you from, okay, I am a singer, to realizing, hey, you know what? I can inspire people with my voice through helping them out.
It's a great question because it was really a moment of self-reflection and self-actualization for me when I realized singing was one of the things that I did well, if I can say that with humble confidence, but it wasn't the only thing. And it gave me an opportunity to look at life through a different lens. And, we just talked about singing a different tune and redirecting those skills and those competencies and that talent in a different way. And what I realized that when you peel away all those layers, at the heart of it, I'm a communicator, and I love to be with people and communicate a message, whether it's a theatrical message in a play or in an opera, or a wonderful bit of wisdom or a message when I'm a public speaker and sharing content with people. So that thread was common, and it just allowed me to shift and deliver a new message.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Now, how do you take that message and how do you deliver that to individuals today?
It's a great question. So it's important to know that in the midst of all this, I have written 2 books about career reinvention. And again, the heart of those books came from my career reinvention process. And I came to learn that there are a lot of people out there just like me who have gone through a big career shift. And my whole quest now moving forward is to help people through this transition. Mine was difficult, and it was slow, and it was emotionally tough. So I've committed my career to helping other people transition without the angst and the emotional difficulty, because it shouldn't have to be that tough. So in writing those books, I realized that there were incredible people out there who had made similar shifts. And by that, I just mean dramatic shifts. I don't necessarily mean from the musical world to something else, although I did meet some fellow musicians who also moved on. And they gave me permission to know it's okay to change our minds. And then I did a lot of interesting research and became certified in a lot of different assessments in the career development realm. So I really became an expert and understood the process and the philosophy of career development. And those are the kinds of things that I share with my audiences today.
Excellent. Well, you have a couple of books, and I'd like to start by talking about the one that's my favorite title. This is not the career that I ordered, which that's awesome. Now, what content is in that book, and what inspired you to write that book?
Well, I've written 2 versions of that book. So there's a first edition and a second edition, and the second edition came out recently, several months ago. So that is the most current version of the book. But the whole premise started when I realized, just through networking and stories with people in my community, that there were a lot of people around me who had indeed reinvented their career. So I became curious and started reaching out and doing press inquiries nationally and internationally. And I focused this book through the lens of women. Men certainly go through career reinvention as well, but it gave me a niche audience with women to do some research and profile amazing women who did reinvent, some by necessity because perhaps their company was downsized in the recession, some because they wanted a choice. They wanted to do something different. And others were just burned out doing the same thing for so many years. They wanted to be re-energized. And the lens of the book is told through these amazing women who have reinvented. And then, of course, my story is woven in there. And the most important part, I believe, is the practicality of some very nuts and bolts career coaching to help you, the reader, navigate through career and reinvention if that is part of your journey.
And what is the process of the coaching? Is it one-on-one sessions? Do you do it in groups, seminars?
It is. Yeah, I certainly love group coaching. I think it's a wonderful experience, especially if you get a group that bonds together and they can hold each other accountable for follow-up, and that kind of personal growth is wonderful in a group process. But I also think the process is very individual, and I believe that you need to customize it for each person. So I would say I do a hybrid of both, a lot of one-on-one coaching with individuals, some group seminars and workshops, and then in my large public speaking keynote opportunities, it's a great way to share a message. But I'm always a speaker that shares action steps and very specific deliverables, because I want to inspire my audience, but I also want to give them tools that they can put into action the very next day.
Okay. What is the most inspiring story that you have, success story that you have personally with working with an individual or group?
You know, that's such a good question, and it's hard to rank them because they're all so inspiring. Let me give you a couple of themes that come up very consistently. So many of the women that I've spoken with, whom I had interviewed in my book, were afraid, and that's perfectly normal. I was too, embarking on an entirely new career. So it gave me permission to share with all of my audience, whether they're reading the book or they're a coaching client or they're sitting in the audience of a keynote, to know fear is okay. And it's okay to take a risk. I think sometimes fear paralyzes us and we're afraid to fail. We're afraid to move forward. So in addition to risk-taking, I've learned that I now fail forward. I fail fast and I fail often. And it's okay to take those little falls and stumbles and learn something from them and start again. So those are some very clear and direct themes in all the reinvention stories that I relate.
Okay, excellent. Now, your next book is called Thrive Where You Are.
It is, yeah. So that's in progress, and I'm co-writing that book with a wonderful colleague by the name of Nancy Hutchins. And what we discovered is that some people want to reinvent in the same organization. You know, they might not change career fields. In fact, they might love their company, but perhaps they're just static in their role in the company. And a lot of organizations now are struggling with what we call talent retention because it's a broad marketplace and people can move around. The job market is getting better. So employers are interested to keep these great employees and engage them well. So this is a reinvention process within the place that you work now to try to figure out how to dust it off, shine it up a little bit, and reinvent your career in your organization.
Okay, excellent. Now, I have a friend who he'd been working for a major automotive manufacturer for 15 years as an engineer, and he wanted to go to school and get his MBA and focus more on the business side. And so he went to the University of Michigan, got an MBA. He came back to the manufacturer, and they still had him pigeonholed in his position. Oftentimes, it's sometimes challenging to make that transition because if you're an accountant, they kind of view you as an accountant. What advice and tips would you give for navigating through that challenge?
That is such a great question because that indeed is one of the biggest problems. So not only do you need to understand as an individual what your skills and strengths are, but what value do you bring to the organization? And part of the reinvention process is creating the story so you can share with employers why you bring value to them in a different role. Because employers, and I say this politely, don't think beyond that box. They are very focused with whatever you came in as. And if you're an accountant, they only see you as an accountant. So it's incumbent upon every individual to take ownership, to be able to tell that story, especially if the story changes. And that's part of the technique of career reinvention, to be able to help other people understand why you are valuable in a new capacity.
Excellent point. Now, you primarily target women, do you target? How do you reach out? You have your website, and what's the best way?
I do. Yes, my website is CarolineDowdHiggins.com, and that's really the hub. That's a great way to reach me. But I am very prolific in how I share content in the world. So in addition to being a public speaker and being out on the circuit, talking all over the country and internationally, I also have a podcast series called Your Working Life, which is showcased on my website, on YouTube, and also on iTunes. And I do a vibrant video series called Thrive. And again, it's about empowering women in life and career. And in addition to career development, it talks about wellness and also financial health, because I think that's a very important part of any professional's journey. So I believe that it's really important for me to share valuable, usable content with my audience. So it's not just what I'm saying from the stage, it's what I'm putting out into the social media sphere. And I also have a written blog in addition to my book.
Excellent. Well, the time always goes by so quickly. Is there anything that you would like to share with the listeners before we wrap up?
Just one thing, that things happen in our career, right? Jobs become less appealing. Sometimes we have difficult colleagues at work, and suffering is optional. So if you're unhappy in your career and you get those Sunday night blues and you think, oh, I just don't want to go back to work on Monday, it's okay to give yourself permission to say, I'd like a change. You deserve it, and you have every opportunity to reinvent.
Caroline, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was very, very empowering, fascinating information that you shared with our listeners.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.